Did you know that he broke his foot?
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Manga Writer and welcome to part 3 of my complete retrospective towards Death Note, in a video that will be much shorter than the others. There's no punchline here, this video will actually be quite short, thank God. In the last part, I briefly told you all about there being 2 OVAs that tried their hand in adapting the Death Note storylines, with these films being made with a more specific goal in mind, to give a shortened and abridged version of the events so that newcomers can come in and get a firm idea of what the story is, without having to go and either read 108 chapters or watch 37 episodes. Yes, because heaven forbid a fan actually give the franchise they supposedly like the time of day to give their most beloved IP an honest shot. And if you remember that slight jab I made towards these 2 movies in the last video, you would know that I don't tend to hold these movies in very high regard. And to explain why, let's just dive right in and go over the first film, Death Note Relight 1, Visions of a God. This OVA acts as an abbreviated version of the L Saga, beginning with a new Shinigami going to Ryuk to learn about the human he had been with during his time on Earth, as like Ryuk, this strange figure finds the Shinigami realm extremely boring. I also gotta say I do really like the design of Ryuk here, just the fact that his eyes are gone just... Man, how many years have passed? After receiving and accepting the mysterious guy's offering of a shitty apple, Ryuk then proceeds with the tale. And what ensues is an OVA that cuts down and abbreviates the entire L arc, a 25 episode saga, into just over 2 hours. It went about as well as you'd expect. I think the best way to describe the end result of trying to condense such a story-rich arc is that it's like somebody's attempt to retell you the story of Death Note years after they last saw it. Like the entire story is more like a hazy memory, rather than an accurate retelling. Some scenes are either taken out entirely or put into different contexts, or some of them are even new, completely original scenes that were added in to what I can guess was to fix up the pacing of the film into something more streamlined. But because it doesn't have the room that the anime had to pace out the plot, the attempts to make this film have a steady pace completely fails. Some scenes are the exact same length as they were in the show, while others are cut drastically short or changed up slightly in order to make the film hit its deadline, resulting in the movie both going at the speed of sound and then going to a crawl in almost an instant. And let me tell you, when I say that they took out a lot of scenes that were pretty important to the story, they took out a lot of scenes. Some of these include Light testing and hiding the Death Note, the task force quitting the Kira case, the bus death in episode 4, Rem telling Misa not to tell anyone about killing Shinigami, the investigation in the town, L stealing Misa's phone after Light tries to call her, the tennis match. I do not forgive them for this one in particular, because way to show how scrambled your priorities were, you fucking hack. Light thinking he was Kira and volunteering to be detained, meaning that his dad being detained and then pretending to shoot him to prove his innocence doesn't happen. Light's bait and switch plan with the Death Note, Aizawa quitting the investigation, Light killing Higuchi with a piece of the Death Note, the foot massage, one of the most pivotal and important scenes in all of fiction. Again, priorities. Light's evil face when L is dying, and Light getting the notebook from Rem's corpse when she was done writing L's name in the Death Note. All of these scenes, moments that I would argue were extremely crucial towards the story of Death Note and why it was so effective, are completely gone. Plot threads that were explained behind mountains of necessary context now have no weight or impact behind them here because there's little to no information. So with all this stuff missing, Relight attempts to fix up these very large empty patches by changing up some certain plot points and putting certain bits of information, like I said before, in different contexts. Such as Light being told of a second Kira by the task force. Instead of meeting L at his college, Light gets a phone call from him which leads him to an open theater where not only is the reveal of the second Kira shown, but is also the place where both L and Light meet for the first time, and Kira was instead impersonated by L, not Light. Quite a lot of information to change, but for this scene these changes are not the worst, if not a little bit strange. I guess the saving grace is that this scene's hilariously over-the-top path towards the theater, making you question just how much power L has over the Japanese government, is actually quite endearing, with the whole scene being exemplified with L doing the most L thing on the planet. God, fucking look at this little goblin, I love him so much. Also, Ryuk is there at the end. Probably making a bad pun to amuse himself or something. And the second change is that instead of telling Light he thinks he's Kira around the time they first met in the original anime, L instead tells him his suspicions around the events of L stealing Misa's phone in the original anime.
Oh, I figure I'll be safe as long as you're not Kira. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have forgotten to tell you, but I currently suspect you of being Kira.
It loses a lot of the initial impact L had over Light since he just blurts this out of nowhere, but because the OVA cut the original scene out, I mean, what else were they gonna do? When the story isn't tripping over itself, trying to fix up the timeline it's so recklessly destroyed, this OVA contains some brand new scenes that even sparked a little debate amongst the fans of the series. These include Ryuk talking to the new Shinigami that kicks off the story. This addition has sparked a small theory that the Shinigami that talks to Ryuk is actually Light, and this is him coming back from the dead in a weird way. But personally, this theory to me doesn't make much sense given the lore of the story, making it so that reincarnation isn't really a thing at all, even with the anime adaptation heavily leaning into the Christian stuff. However, the idea of Light being this immortal soul that kept on living after death does make him seem a lot more interesting. So while it doesn't make too much sense, I can see the appeal of that theory. An omnipresent Kira is quite an endearing one. Personally, I boil this theory down into just being a cute little headcanon. Also, because it has goggles, it's more likely that it's Matt. Can't prove me wrong. But the biggest scene to come out of this OVA was the ending. After Light kills L, the OVA actually shows a scene of the task force attending L's funeral, where Soichiro gives them kind parting words, and Light stays behind so that he can be with L alone. Then, when everyone is gone, and no more eyes are looking at him, Light does this.
Now everything that was in my way is gone. Everyone else still believes in me. It's only a matter of time before I get rid of the police. What do you think of that, Elle? This is my perfect victory! That's right! I win!
This scene has been one that I think has sparked one of the bigger debates in the show's fandom, with the big question being, was this scene in character? Some make the argument that Light wouldn't be one to let loose like that in a place where he could very easily be caught, and given his very restrained nature, Light freaking out like this seems like something that would be very risky and even very stupid. It completely contradicts the way he's been acting for so long, especially when you keep the anime in mind. But personally, I'm on the other side of the fence, and think that this scene was actually completely in character for Light to do, and here's why I think that. Despite having many moments of holding himself back, throughout the show, Light has been shown to be, when he knows he's all alone, to be a very emotional and expressive character. Despite his calm and restrained nature around people, whenever Light is alone and knows that nobody is watching him, that calm demeanor completely vanishes. From getting worked up over L challenging him in episode 2, to his outburst to Ryuk about L duping him in episode 9, Light has been shown to have this very expressive, explosive, and emotional side whenever something big happens to him. And given the fact that Light just killed L, the person who, as far as he knew, was his greatest opponent in a strategy that would make 4D chess look like checkers, having him react like this makes complete sense to me. At this moment, Light is under the impression that he is now invincible. As far as he knows, he has achieved his status as the god of the new world. Nothing and nobody could ever touch him the same way L did. Don't take that sentence out of context. And because of that, Light having this massive euphoric episode that he's been holding back for such a long time, to me, feels very in character. I mean, could you imagine having to hold back a gloat for so long and then you finally get the chance to release it after going through so much hardship and close calls with loss? Lord knows I do the exact same thing. But that's being more personal, if anything. Let's stick to the world of fiction. L's death and his victory had allowed Light to finally revel in his own, well, light. A chance to gloat and feel unstoppable with nothing to hold him back. So having him go as far as to defile L's grave, something that probably would have gotten him caught, in this quick episode of madness, seems like something he would definitely do. But I don't know, tell me your opinion in the comments, I'm interested to hear him. I also found the scene after this to be another great addition, as not only are the kills still very, very brutal, but the idea of Light being close to the scene of his crimes is a much better way to show off his descent into tyrannical madness, a lot more impactful than the anime's ending of the L arc. Sure, I do love myself some weird symbolism as much as the next guy, but thinking about Light always being close by doing some of the most horrific deaths, like he's just fucking with people now that L isn't around to suss him out, is just way more sinister and terrifying. It's almost like Lovecraftian levels of fucking with humanity. If you know Nyarlathotep, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, that last shot of Light's reflection is just... it's really fucking cool. Not to mention that the ending scene with Ryuk wishing the Shinigami luck in his pursuit of finding entertainment in the human world was a nice way to wrap up this almost retelling of a story, with Ryuk even referring to Light not as a god, but something else entirely.
No, Light, you weren't actually a god back then. You were something else.
The idea that Light's story is probably not going to be the last time this kind of thing happens, and the notion that there are Shinigami in their realm going down to Earth to get their own stories after being inspired by Ryuk, is just such a daunting but cool idea that I wished more adaptations dived into, because the way different Kiras could spawn up and have their own motives as to why they kill people is such an awesome concept to think about. It's insane to think about the level of potential the world building of Death Note has. Like, there's so much to this world that could just be utilized, but people just they don't want to do it. Come on guys, get creative. But moving on to the next OVA, L's Successors, this one of course tackles the Nier arc, a saga that was only 12 episodes long in the original show, condensing the story down to just over 85 minutes. And you'd think that with less material to cover, this film would do a better job than the first OVA, but...
I'm sure that you all remember Relight, Visions of a God. What's it about, you ask? It's the story of the battle between Kira and those who carried on my name and mission after my death.
Fuck off!
You would be wrong. Like the last movie, L's Successors acts as a retelling of the story that this time has L and then Watari being the narrators of the movie's plot. This OVA is where the studio finally makes their intentions about the OVAs very clear.
It was created for those who haven't seen the original series.
So in case any of you thought I was lying, there you go. But in typical OVA fashion, this film did about as well of a job as the first movie, which is to say, not very well at all. L's Successors once again added some new scenes that were not from the original show, that admittedly are quite interesting, but like the last movie, have also taken out scenes that were very important to the story, a story that was already a shaky adaptation of the manga at best. Since the number of these is smaller this time around, let me show you the scenes from the original anime that the OVA cut out. I'm not going to use the manga because, oh boy, that's a whole rabbit hole I'm not going into again. The whole storyline of Sayu getting kidnapped is completely scrapped. Yes, I'm not making that up. Because Sayu never gets kidnapped, Melo's gang is not a thing, Sido is never there to tell him that the 13-day rule is bullshit and gets back his Death Note, the task force never made the deal to get Sayu back, the police never raid the gang's hideout, Melo's name isn't found out through that, and above all, Soichiro doesn't die an honorable death, but dies off-screen. That's the fucking beginning. Takeda and Misa, who have a dinner after Misa attacks Takeda and Takeda wants to put Misa in her place, still happens in the OVA, but rather than having any kind of build-up, is just a random occurrence, making the scene feel almost pointless, if only to show that Takeda was promised by Light that she would become the goddess of his new world. Because okay, like, why would this scene be in here? Matt's death, something that happened in the anime, is gone as well. While admittedly he was pretty much gone from the anime anyway, so erasing him altogether doesn't really change much, the issue is that this also means that Melo's whole story of suspecting Misa as being the second Kira never happens. It also means that the kidnapping of Takeda raises questions because Melo is just suddenly back and has someone working for him for an unexplained reason. Who is this guy and why is he working with Melo? My headcanon for this series of events is that Matt decided to prank the crowd with a smoke bomb, Melo saw this and went, "Whoa, how convenient, let me swoop in and get Takeda, yoink." I can't, that was a fucking terrible impression. It also makes you question why Hal tells Takeda to go with him, because the last time these two met, Melo was putting a gun to her head, so Hal just looks really fucking stupid here. My god, did the anime fucking butcher these two. The Sakura TV spokesperson scene and the riot of the SBK building, scenes that illustrated the negative impacts of Kira, were also taken out of the story, which is yeah, it's a bit of a shame since these scenes definitely helped show that the world was starting to go mad from Kira's reign, but I guess that story wasn't important to the OVA. And one thing that I would say is the most insulting thing that the OVA took out was Aizawa's entire story figuring out that Light was Kira and contacting Nier about it, making Nier's suspicions of him all the more concrete. Aizawa's role in Light getting caught is something that I don't think is talked about enough, and the way he figured it out was nothing short of genius. It made Aizawa into a very good character, and the fact that all of his shit was taken out was, in my opinion, really unfair. Half the drama that came from the Nier arc, or whatever was left of it, and the whole way Nier was finally certain that Light was Kira was partially because of Aizawa, and the OVA just got rid of it. Sort of like Mello, but that's a point for later. Case in point, fucking bullshit, just as for Aizawa. So, like the last film, these scenes, ones that were very important to the story, were taken out and caused the plot to be even more of a shaken up mess. And that's not even getting into the changes this OVA had to make in order to make this plot work, because oh fucking boy did a lot have to be rewritten. Because the whole plotline of Sayu being kidnapped by Mello, leading to him getting the Death Note and the boys having to get it back at the cost of Soichiro's life is now completely gone, the OVA had to make a lot of big changes to future points in the story. Nier, who met Light over the Mello case and then accused him of being Kira later, instead calls up Light after his meeting with Takeda and immediately starts accusing him. Which, side note, Light's meeting with Takeda was also dramatically changed from him trying to get her into his arms to asking her about how Mikami is doing, making it so that that storyline wasn't needed for this to happen. Takeda just pops up and is already working for Light. That's fun. But back on point, Nier's accusation to Light leads to the massacre of the SBK members, something that was done by Mello to prove a point in the original story, and is now instead being done by Mikami after Light got the information of the agents from contacting the US president, another scene that had its context completely changed by the way, which he gave to Takeda and told Mikami all the names. But admittedly, I'll give the OVA this newly animated scene of the SBK members dying and having Light ask Nier if he's okay while Nier is drenched in the blood of one of his members is admittedly a very cool and brutal scene. It's a rather nice change from the source material that still allows Light to be seen as a threat and also show how battle-hardened Nier is as well. It's not too bad. However, despite the changes being mostly fine and even arguably effective so far, this drastic change to the beginning of the story falls apart immediately after, because it makes it so that Mello going in and talking to Nier while he held one of his teammates hostage lose a lot of its original punch. Because number one, Mello suddenly shows up with a mysterious scar that people who have only seen this OVA will have no idea how he got it.
Nier, I'm tired of your games. This fight between us to catch Kira is now at its climax, and if you want to keep all your teeth, then you better stay out of my—
Holy shit, what the fuck? Huh? What happened to your face? You look like you were born half pepperoni.
But this has nothing to do with the
What,
investigation.
did you get involved in some gang stuff? Did you blow yourself up? How does one get a scar like yours without becoming a terrorist? Was Hal that bad?
Whatever, I'm gonna go get Kira now.
And he just left me hanging. You can't be fucking serious.
2, he for some reason knows about the 13-day rule and the fact that lots of Nier's task force have been murdered, which I can only guess in this continuity he got out of Hal, which is honestly a very weird thing to ask even for him. And 3, Nier thanking him for the information, something that made sense in the manga and even in the anime, makes no sense here because this is Mello's first ever appearance since he left at the start of the movie.
Thank you for that, Mello.
What was that?
You filled in the missing pieces. In the end, what saved me was the information you provided.
What missing pieces are you talking about? Mello's main contribution to the Kira case before was completely skipped over, to a point where Nier has already figured out that the 13-day rule is bullshit by himself, with his reasoning being very flimsy, let's be honest.
Yes, now I know. As soon as it was mentioned, Kira panicked and made his move, therefore confirming my suspicions.
While yes, Nier, having the members be killed after you ruffled Light's feathers proved he might be Kira sure, the 13-day rule is still up in the air. He doesn't even attempt to try it out like he did in the original story, so this rule just never gets proven wrong in this adaptation either. Either way, because of all the big changes that the OVA made to the story, Nier has no reason to thank Mello for anything he's done in this context because Mello hasn't done anything, making this entire scene feel pointless. I wasn't kidding when adaptations are gonna fuck Mello over, because, oh boy, the sidelining is only gonna get worse. Seriously, if you thought Mello was sidelined a lot in the anime, it is nothing compared to here. He shows up, does some cryptic shit, and then dies. Though that's pretty much his 3 scenes in this film. He is a character that just gets done so dirty in this whole story. And trust me, the way other people will treat Mello in other adaptations, like I said in the anime video, is not any better. It's only going to get worse. I'm sorry to the few of you that are a fan of him, because a lot of this retrospective is gonna make you very angry. Also, fun little fact, Mello doesn't tell Nier about Shinigami. Something that was very important in the anime, so how the fuck does Nier know of their existence in the scene where he's theorizing about his second Kira to a point where he knows about the ideal? Who told him any of this? Not to mention he just suddenly knows of Mikami's existence off screen and assumes he's a second Kira, something that made flimsy sense in the anime, but here, it's not. Doesn't make any sense, so yeah, that's just fantastic.
However, considering his relationship with Takada, the probability that he is ex-Kira is very high.
This line is great when you forget the fact that these two never met in this version until Nier brought it up. Yep, gotta love this adaptation. And to top all of this off, because the scene of him talking to the president was never shown, Nier even knowing that the Death Note is real in this telling of the story makes very little sense. How does Nier know anything?
Now that we're aware of this situation, we can use it to our advantage. We're almost there.
One of the other changes they made, and one that was actually okay, was how Mello died. In the original, Mello's name was figured out in episode 29 during the police raid of his HQ, and the reason Light didn't kill him was because it would make him look suspicious. So because of that, he relied on Takada to do the killing for him when she was kidnapped by Mello. However, because the OVA never had this plot point, the OVA instead shows a shot of Takada having red eyes, which, if I was to theorize, means that she could have possibly made the ideal to get his name. How she knew about it is guesswork, since Light never told her about the Shinigami eyes, hell even about Shinigami at all in the scenes we saw them together, not to mention that Mikami was helping her kill people by contacting her through cell phone, but regardless, it was at least an attempt to fix that potential plot hole. And while yes, it could just be a whole thing that Light or Mikami told Takada Mello's name off screen, that's entirely a possibility. I find the idea that Takada doing the deal in a last-ditch effort to free herself and killing Mello is an idea that is honestly very compelling. There's not much good shit in this stuff, like, please, just let me have this, please. But after all these changes, we get to the new stuff. The new scenes that were added into the OVA, which honestly are all quite good in their own respective rights. And these scenes are the following. Nier thinking about the case while knocking down thousands of dominoes. Not only does this scene do great at doing the old symbolism Death Note has a great knack for doing, even showing visually how Light was going to be very hard to catch if Nier messes up even once, this also did a good job at showing how Nier has the logical side of L to a T. Nier is able to figure stuff out in ways that no normal person could, and makes it so that a lot of the information from the anime can be condensed into just one scene. It's a narratively and visually compelling scene that was a very nice addition. Inside this additional change is also the famous scene of L talking to the Whammy House foster kids, and the iconic speech he gives when he asks about what he's afraid of. And because copyright is an absolute bitch and there is no way I'd be able to play the whole speech without getting my balls blown off, let me just read you the speech that L gives to the kids, because getting every single word is quite important. There are many types of monsters in this world. Monsters who do not show themselves and who cause trouble. Monsters who abduct children. Monsters who devour dreams. Monsters who suck blood. And monsters who always tell lies. Lying monsters are a real nuisance. They are much more cunning than other monsters. They pose as humans, even though they have no understanding of the human heart. They eat, even though they've never experienced hunger. They study, even though they have no interest in academics. They seek friendship, even though they do not know how to love. If I were to encounter such a monster, I would likely be eaten by it. Because in truth, I am that monster. Such a beautiful speech that not only could be applied to Light's character, but can be applied super heavily towards L. Lots of people in the fandom have this misbelief that L is just a socially awkward, little autistic and sweet-obsessed gremlin that is a bit harmless, but fail to see, like I said in my manga analysis, the monster L truly is underneath his quirks and strange habits. L is a character who was in the game to catch Kira solely because he found it interesting. Not because it was the right thing to do. It had no easy or clear answer, so it sparked L to do all his investigations. He was a guy who was willing to toe the line of morality and even go into the illegal if it meant he could get a confession out of Light and win the game against him. While yes, he does say that he'll put Kira to justice a good few times, are we just forgetting the whole scene where this fucker was sad and depressed because he couldn't get Light to confess after being shown proof that he wasn't Kira? L can claim he's out for justice, but like, he endured a lot of this case purely out of spite. Justice, like I've been saying before, is more like a facade that he uses to tell other people why he's doing it, when in reality, it's just kind of fun for him. And from being raised in the Whammy house all his life, where people are trained to become L and lose their names in the process, his entire line of thinking is about lying to get what he wants, lying so that he can get answers, lying so that he can win whatever game he's playing or solve any puzzle he's trying to piece together. From his upbringing and his outlook on life, L is a monster through and through, and the only reason he's not considered one from my perspective is that he decided to use his talents and ego into catching criminals. In a way, L isn't that different to Light. Hell, I'd argue he's worse than Light in some regards, but the only reason he's thought to be the quote-unquote good guy in the story is because he does what society deems to be good. L does a lot of bad and awful shit in the story, but because it led to good results, he's somehow justified and his actions can even be explained away because it's for the greater good. Doing some bad things because it could lead to some good results that can change the future for the better? Doesn't that sound familiar? L is a monster that's allowed to do all this fucked up shit if it means he's going after the right targets. And this speech also showed that even in his dark and twisted ways, he's scared of meeting someone that is just as dark and twisted as him, because only a monster can understand what it truly takes to become and see one for what they really are, and only a monster can truly defeat another. This scene was a wonderful exploration of that part of L. It shows that he's aware of what kind of person he is, and through understanding his own nature, he uses that to catch others, and on occasions, save himself. It's a scene that illustrates the real disconnect that L has towards the world from lying so much throughout his life. It's all in all a very powerful scene and incredible speech, something that I'm very glad was put into this OVA. What we also got that's new was a scene where over the TV, a broadcast is playing where a debate is being held between pro and anti-Kira worshippers, and throughout the debate, all of the faces, even the faces of those who support Kira, are hidden by a tainted glass sheet in order to protect the identities of the people in the debate. Kira is so dangerous and unpredictable that even his followers have to be careful showing their faces, having to cover up even when they support him. It's not exactly subtle, but I still find it compelling. Once the debate gets very heated, an anti-Kira debater suddenly gets controlled by the Death Note, shatters the glass protecting the people's faces, and in a matter of seconds, all hell breaks loose.
Stop the broadcast! What are you doing?
Aside from this death breaking one of the rules in the Death Note where it states that the death has to be plausible, and I've yet to see any person be able to do this kind of shit to themselves, this scene was still incredibly brutal to watch. The absolute pandemonium of people scrambling for their lives, Mikami reveling in killing what he deems are the heretics, and the way that everybody is dropping like flies, from the anti-Kira people, the pro-Kira people, and even those who were merely filming the debate impartially, was a scene that perfectly illustrated just how far Light has fallen as the god of the new world. Light has gone from killing criminals specifically to allowing his followers to kill those who merely oppose and challenge his ideas. His once righteous and virtuous motivation has now been twisted into a sinister and sadistic power fantasy, making the whole world terrified of merely stepping out of line. It was a fantastic scene that allowed us to see the true colors of light start to come out, slowly and steadily. One thing I'm always going to give each adaptation is that they just always find a really creative way to show just how fucked up light is. It's really, really good shit, because after all, the first person that Kira killed was Light Yagami. But aside from these very big scenes, the other additions are just fun little add-ons, like Light checking outside his door when he meets up with Takeda thinking that someone is watching him because he's a whore, Light talking to Ryuk about Nier after he calls him and accuses him of being Kira, Mikami having a conversation with Ryuk that shows just how much of a psychopath he is deep down, and Light doing a little bit of research into Mello and Nier. All of these scenes are ones that make the OVA into more of its own thing, and while I will give it credit for that, it does not save this film from being an even more watered down version of the original Nier arc, which is to say, it's a bit disappointing. So to conclude, aside from a few interesting changes and a handful of very good scenes, watching these two OVAs was all around very underwhelming. Originally I thought that my negative views towards these movies was because I watched these right after finishing the anime, which given that I was basically watching everything again, that certainly might have soured my experience back then. Because yes, you can watch Peak over and over all you like, but experiencing it over and over back to back will get old no matter how much you like it. I even experienced that slightly when just covering the anime. But upon watching them again to freshen up my mind to write up this analysis, these OVAs just aren't good retellings of the original story. To anyone that wishes to experience the story of Death Note, these OVAs are not the way to do it, despite what they may tell you. Fundamentally, they are just way too different. If you want to get into Death Note, put on your big boy pants and watch the anime or read the manga, skip these two movies, and just watch the small original scenes in your own time. If you don't want to scour the 7 seas, you can certainly find them on YouTube. You don't even have to watch these scenes in the context of the films, they serve perfectly fine on their own. And with that biting critique, I don't really like these OVAs. All in all, I wasn't impressed. So, with my thoughts on the OVA done and dusted, and we can finally move on from the original storyline, thank fucking goodness, it's time we get into the other adaptations, with the more obscure media, the ones that you might have heard in passing and just never paid any mind to. The most popular of these more obscure Death Note medias, besides this one, I'm not doing this just yet, are the Japanese live-action movies that were both released in 2006 in Japan, merely months apart from each other, and released worldwide in 2008, movies that were actually made before the anime was ever released. These films were both directed by Shusuke Kaneko, and were movies that tell the entire story of the L Saga in just over 5 hours. Yes, you heard that right. 2 movies, the whole L Saga, 5 hours. I was scared going into these, I'll be completely honest with you. What I was expecting out of these movies was an absolute dumpster fire. 2 movies that would try cram so much shit from the original story into a short runtime, and my expectations were that even if it was bad, it was going to be a so bad it's good kind of bad. So even if the films are objective dog shit, I would at least get some enjoyment out of it. But then after I watched these 2 movies, let's just say I'm never going to judge a book by its cover ever again. Why is that? Well, that'll be for another time. And for now, my name is Manga Writer, and I'll see you in the next one.
Now fuck, Goggles got independence.
Where's Ryuk?
It's not fun being blind.
You!
Huh?
Tell me a story!
Okay, damn.
I'ma start killing people!
Hey. And that was basically it, to be honest.
Bullshit!
God damn it.
This world is mine!
Hey.
Aha!
Hey.
Fuck!
My name is Ray Penber,
I am an agent who will. Ooh, look a file.
Skill issue. I am Naomi Misara. I am a woman.
Ew.
I will now invade your family's privacy.
What?
What?
Damn, this chip is the good shit.
My spleen! We got tapes from Kira.
This is simple. Give me the tapes.
GG, old man.
Hey,
Why did this suddenly become Mission Impossible?
Hey, check this out.
This is bullshit.
You go die.
Rem, are you?
No.
Highlight, my name is Misa Amane. I am a woman.
Yeah, I think you're Kira.
Oh, really?
And you and Misa are under arrest.
How the fuck?
Ryuk, do the thing.
What thing?
I won't be explaining it in this version.
Okay.
Hey!
Cope and seethe.
I am a woman.
Mauled.
Kira's back.
God damn it.
Let's find Kira.
But you are Kira.
Shut the fuck up.
Yatsuba is being sus as fuck.
Let's get him.
Way ahead of you.
Oh my fucking god. Misa, what have you got?
I am a woman.
Just what I wanted to hear. Well, that could have been better.
I am actually Kira.
Your hairline is as bad as your cover. Misa, find the one with the worst hairline. Can you do that?
I am a woman.
You never change.
Damn, girl, with a body like that, I'll confess to anything.
There's no way Higuchi's that dumb.
So I found out Higuchi is Kira.
How the fuck? I'm screwed. I'm not screwed. I'm screwed. Fuck. Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Hand it over to me. I'll take a look. What the fuck? That makes so much more sense. Oh, not doing that again.
Exactly as Kikaku.
I am a woman.
Fucking you.
Yo, my weed.
Looks like Misa's back.
Ryuk, what did you do?
I feel very nostalgic at this moment.
I am a woman.
Alright, I'm gonna see if these rules work.
Kill yourself.
Fine. Damn. It really is windy out here.
Go back inside.
Oh. Oh god, my age!
Watari, why are you so...
He died as he lived.
Yeah. A fucking
Loser.
best. And yeah, that was basically it.
That was the most rushed story I've ever heard.
Suck my dick. Go get your own story.
Goddamn waste of time.
The first 9 minutes of this special will be recapping the first movie, which theoretically means that the saga actually had 76 minutes to tell its story, not 85.
Got him.
I'm just as amused as you.
Please work together, you two.
Hell no, I'm leaving.
Don't go and join a gang, young man.
With this big set of dominoes, I can... Fucking light Yagami as Kira.
Kira is the almighty.
Your dad is dead.
Oh.
Yo, this Death Note is crazy.
You're kind of scaring me, Brian. He's going right back in. How's it going? My sweet little... Mikimi's doing fine.
Oh, thank God.
What? Do you like me?
Hey.
Motherfucker just respawned.
Hey, yo, what?
Down with the system. You good, Nier? I'm keeping a stone face because my pants turned brown.
Dear, we got company.
Oh, that's just great.
Nier, I'm tired of your games. The fight between us to catch Kira is now at its climax. If you want to... Then you bet... Nah, fuck this, I'm going after Kira.
I know of the existence of the Shinigami, the Ideal, Takeda, and Mikima meeting up. And I know that Light Yagami is Kira.
How do you know this?
Intuition.
Takeda, if you do anything stupid again, I'm going to...
I talked with Misa about us.
Bitch, 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 bitch.
God damn it!
Light Yagami, you
are definitely Kira.
1v1 me, scrub. Meet me out back, never mind.
Takeda just got kidnapped.
She got what?
Huh, I'm back, bitch. Light, please save me. I am a woman. 1v1 me, scrub. Making me didn't write down your name. See